Next, related subject on the issue of conversion therapy, of gender identity, of gender dysphoria. A new national survey on transgenderism has a couple of interesting findings. Now, most people still think there are real differences between men and women, but a lot of people are afraid to say so. And a poll by Summit Ministries found that nearly 2/3 of Americans believe transgenderism is unhealthy, isn't healthy, but 1/3 say they keep that view to themselves. What does all of this tell us? Well, Pastor Lucas Miles is a faculty member at Summit Ministries who conducted this survey, and he joins us now on Washington Watch to tell us about it. Lucas, good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Hey, thanks for coming. What surprised you, if anything, about these poll results?
I mean, honestly, I'm really pleased to see how these results, showed up. This is what I was hoping for. I think what this shows, and piggybacking on the last segment, is that the great majority of Americans don't think that transgenderism is a healthy lifestyle. In fact, 2/3, of those polled held that view that transgenderism is not a healthy lifestyle. And that 90% were opposed to gender alteration surgeries and procedures for minors. And so, what we have in this country right now is we have some radicalized courts and we have some radicalized advertisers that are trying to, I think, convince Americans otherwise. But what it appears from this poll and our research is that the worldview of the average American voter is that more in line with the traditional family value. And I think that's very optimistic when we look at this country.
I would agree with you in a sense. And in part of your poll, and I'll highlight another question here, 93% of Americans believe it's possible to distinguish between men and women. Now, are we to be encouraged by the 93% or very concerned about the 7% who believe you can't tell the difference between men and women?
Look, I would like to see the 7% number at 1 or 2% or less. It is concerning that the 7%, that seems rather high, for a very basic truth of what is a man or what is a woman. And so I think this is certainly, a place where, organizations that are fighting for freedom and fighting for religious liberty and the church and all of these things have a lot of work, to do to still, I think, see transformation in culture. But overall, I think we have to celebrate the 93% that's there.
I would agree with you, but this issue is unique. And I think it's possible that in my lifetime, I've never seen a more fierce, more intense marketing campaign from so many different levels. We're talking the federal government, we're talking state governments, we're talking municipalities and counties in many cases, we're talking big business, we're talking corporate advertising, celebrating the idea that men can be women and women can be men if they want to. Do you think the numbers that your poll showed illustrates the resiliency of the American public? Or if we had taken this poll 5 years ago, would it show that this marketing campaign is working?
I think there is an element that we are seeing the marketing campaign of progressive thinkers in America working, in that they are slowly sort of, chipping away at this, Judeo-Christian worldview that I think America was established upon. I was watching TV the other night with my wife, and we rarely watch anything that's live television. So we're not, we don't have a bunch of commercials all the time that we're seeing. But this particular night, we were watching live TV, and every single commercial, it just seemed like it was either pushing transgenderism or CRT or some other leftist concept. And, there is a really strong, very real push. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is really happening. And I think advertisers are on board, and certainly the ad firms that are pushing them in this direction, with the decisions that they're making and the casting decisions that they're making, et cetera. And I think that their efforts are showing traction. And I think this is should be a wake-up call, for Americans that still love this country and still love the truth, to recognize that the truth is under attack.
Lucas, one of the other things that your survey found was that though the supermajority of Americans still believe that men are men and women are women, and that's just the way it is, a third reported an unwillingness to say so publicly. What do you take from that?
Unfortunately, I think we're still seeing people that either fail to recognize how serious this issue is, or, for fear of persecution or, getting canceled or whatever we want to call that today, they're choosing to remain silent. And unfortunately, as a pastor, I see a lot of pastors that aren't willing to, step into the fray on these issues. And I just, I am urging, my fellow clergy and fellow leaders out there that we have to talk about these things. This isn't about being partisan. This is about standing upon truth. And I think that, if you look back, 20 years ago, the left and the right, by and large, could have agreed upon a lot of these issues that we're seeing conflict over today. This isn't really a political issue as much as it's a worldview issue, and in some degree, a religious issue, because what we're seeing on the left is they are beginning to worship the state. That's the nature of Marxism. And I think that it is very important that those who have remained silent in the past recognize their voice is needed. There's a way to do that tactfully, to walk in grace and truth in this, but we have to speak up.
Lucas, one more question. We got about a minute left. What's your encouragement to parents who are dealing with children growing up in this morass of confusion?
Well, from my vantage point, I think a lot of parents have been the champion in the last, year or two. They've fought against COVID rules. They've fought against school boards and, some of these other issues and libraries and everything else. And I think in areas where the church and others should have, came to their aid, parents were the first ones to the front lines. And I would just encourage them to continue the fight. Find a good church, continue to build, faith in your children, encourage them, stand strong, and don't give in for 1 second.
That's great advice. And I would also add to that, send your kids to Summit Ministries. It's a great ministry, helps form kids, provides a community for them. Back in the day, I was a camper at Summit Ministries for a couple weeks of my life in Colorado Springs and greatly benefited from it. And I would commend other parents and young people to do so as well. Lucas Miles, thank you so much for your time today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm speaking at 3 camps this summer. Looking forward to seeing them there.
Looking forward to being there.